So they get your messages out to the world now.
Sorry? Yeah, kind of. I'm broadcasting to the whole universe.
Does this universe or other universes as well?
Sorry?
Does this universe or other universes as well?
To other universes as well.
In all realms. Loudspeakers everywhere. You're not doing that. There's 12 hits. There's an emanation.
All right. I'm just checking why sometimes, trying to figure out why YouTube sometimes stops. All right, let's try it out. All right, shall we begin? We'll begin with the Heart Sutra. I hear that it's a good sutra, so actually maybe what try doing, just a second. Probably it's shut up. All right. So I'll share the Heart Sutra. Right, I prostrated the Arya Triple Gem, and here at one time the Bhagavan was dwelling on a massive Balchan mountain in Madhya, together with the community amongst the great community of Bodhisattvas. At that time, found perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokitesvara looked upon the very practice of the fine perfection of wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokitesvara. How should any son of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the fine perfection of wisdom? He said that in the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokitesvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the fine perfection of wisdom should look upon like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding the five aggregates also as form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is not other than form, form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, composition of factors and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, produce unseen, standards not without stains, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no composition of factors, no consciousness. No eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object, no touch, and no eye element, and so up to including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extension of ignorance, and up to including no aging and death, no extension and aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, Bodhisattvas rely on well and perfection of wisdom. The mind without obscuration and without fear, having completely passed beyond error to reach the end point of Nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly completely awakened to the unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Or the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of the great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequal, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering should be known and the truth since it is not false. Mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Tayata gate gate paragate parasangate bodhisoha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokitesvara, saying, well said, son of lineage, it is like that, it is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom just as you have indicated, even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken in the Venerable Shabda the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara, and so undergoing their entirety, along with the worlds of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. Choda Tsogi Chonam La, Chanchu Badu Dani Kyamsuchi, Dari Chinyagi Besonang, Dola Penji Sange Dopasho. Chodan Tsogi Chonam La, Chanchu Badu Dani Kyamsuchi, Dari Chishigi Besonang, Dola Penji Sange Dopasho. Chodan Tsogi Chonam La, Chanchu Badu Dani Kyamsuchi, Dari Chishigi Besonang, Dola Penchi Sange Dopashu. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to the people at home. So I thought of doing a few things today. I thought of, first of all, starting with questions from the review questions. So I've heard that some of you have been doing the review session or have done the review session during the weekend. You have had some discussions with some friends or amongst yourself. I'm wondering if there are any questions or something that that is not clear to you that you would like to discuss.
I think there were questions coming up in the discussion group. So probably.
Yeah, so also questions coming up from the discussion group.
In relation to that question.
All good from your side. Thank you very much. Questions?
Cartson, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a question there about the 4 main points in the meditation outline of freedoms and opportunities.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what you're asking there. Like, is that based on one of the morning meditations or something else?
All right. So probably it might have come up in the morning meditation, but there is a backbone, like a structure to the meditation on freedoms and opportunities or leisure and endowment. So I've based the questions on what Lama Tsongkhapa, the way that Lama Tsongkhapa taught that in his Lamrim Channel, but I think that also it is a similar structure to the meditation on the precious human body when you look at other texts coming from other traditions. So the 4 points are as follows. The first one is recognizing that we have 8 freedoms and 10 opportunities. That's the first point, the recognition. The second point is recognizing how they are of great advantage or they are of great purpose. The third point is understanding how difficult it is to find freedoms and opportunities. And the fourth one is understanding how easy it is to lose them. So these are the main points. And of course, there are quite a lot of things and arguments and reasons that we use to insert into that contemplation when we do the actual meditation. And I thought of today maybe spending part of the session and also looking at some of the things that we think of in that meditation, just to make sure that we're completely clear about the meditation format. After all, when we study the Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life, it's not just like an academic study that we do, it's like a meditation manual. Since it is a meditation manual or guideline, then we want to follow a certain system as something, as like the very I think, foundation for then making our mind become more informed. So I think that what's good about those meditation outlines is that when you follow a certain procedure, then you don't have to invent the wheel every time in your meditation or find that you struggle with thinking about stuff in your meditation. So you start with a skeleton, with a with the first few basic points, and then I think that you start thinking about those fundamental arguments, and you add to. I think that the more you do those meditation, you start adding more points to this meditation, more arguments based upon your own experience, based upon links that you create from other teachings. So you have more to work with. But I think that it all depends on whether you can, first of all, hold on the basic meditation structure in your mind, so that you have like, this, I think, just structure to follow. So those are the 4 main points. Is it clear, Lynn? I hope so. Any other questions? All right, so, okay, Lynn, I see that you unmuted yourself. So
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, just to say, yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
Good.
did have a question. Yaki, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, I just wasn't quite sure. What if you have time to go over the essence Dharma? Was it essence Kaya? Essence Kaya, sorry.
Yeah, the essence Kaya. All right.
Thank you.
So this is also something that I that I wanted to add maybe today. So it seems that every time we speak about it, there's some new bits that are coming. So I'll put it on the screen just a second. Bear with me. All right. So Dhammakaya is divided into 2 types of Dhammakaya: exalted knowledge Dhammakaya and the essence Kaya. So I think that to cut to the chase, exalted knowledge Dhammakaya, this big name, refers to the mind of the Buddha, right? Buddha's mind is Dhammakaya. Dhammakaya is the Buddha's mind in general, or more specifically, exalted knowledge Dhammakaya is the Buddha's mind. Now, the emptiness of the Buddha's mind is called the essence Kaya. So that's the most simple way, right? So the Buddha's mind is the exalted knowledge Dhammakaya. The emptiness of the Buddha's mind is the essence Kaya. So to begin with, do you all agree that a mind is empty of inherent existence? Do we agree?
Yes.
I mean, it's quite funny. I think that we agree, although I think that it doesn't necessarily mean that we understand all the ins and outs with respect to emptiness of inherent existence. Jampa or Carl says that he doesn't agree with that. Jampa, shut up. I think that you're probably going to bring in the Shengton and all the other thing into it, right, Jampa?
I just wanted to create some controversy.
Thank you very much, Jampa. You're doing your job. Put a spanner in the works.
If the Buddha's mind is the nature of emptiness, then the Buddha doesn't exist.
Say it again, please.
If the nature of the Buddha's mind is emptiness, then the Buddha doesn't exist.
Explain yourself. Please explain as Pauline Hanson says.
Sorry, I'm just creating controversy. I should not be such a...
Okay.
You can't
Yeah.
explain this.
All right, you can't explain yourself. Thank you very much for your input, Jampa. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. So anyway, so the nature of our mind is emptiness of inherent existence. Now, I think that Jampa in the discussion, he spoke a bit about Buddha nature. So no, I'm not gonna talk about it extensively. But when you study this topic, I think that the idea is that the nature of the empty nature of our own mind, the emptiness nature of our own mind, can become at some point the Dhammakaya, the essence Kaya. So the nature of Buddha's mind is emptiness. The nature of our mind is emptiness. So there is a continuity of consciousness, right? So we begin with where our consciousness is at the moment. and there is a continuity of consciousness, we go through a process by which we eliminate our obscurations, afflictive obscurations and cognitive obscurations. We together with that, we develop realizations, more and more realizations. So the continuity of mind that accumulates more and more realizations, at some point will become a Buddha's exalted knowledge Dhammakaya, which means that our mind will become a Buddha's mind, the exalted knowledge Dhammakaya. The emptiness of our mind, you can say, will become the Buddha's essence kaya, which is part of the Dhammakaya. Now, I say it just in a general sense. The emptiness of our own mind is a permanent phenomenon. Emptiness is permanent. So, as it is permanent, it does not transform. It does not undergo changes because it is permanent. But you could say that the mind itself goes through transformation, and with each moment of mind, there is also the emptiness of the mind. It is an attribute of the mind. So in that sense, when a mind becomes a Buddha's exalted knowledge Dhammakaya, the emptiness of that mind will be a Buddha's essence kaya, which is part of the Dhammakaya. Now, to add to that a couple of bits, right? So I said that the exalted knowledge Dhammakaya, this thing, becomes the Buddha's omniscient mind, right? Every moment of a Buddha's consciousness is a realizing consciousness. There is no consciousness of a Buddha that doesn't realize something. Actually, every moment of a Buddha's consciousness, every Buddha's consciousness realizes all phenomena and the emptiness of all phenomena at the same time. So that's the exalted knowledge Dhammakaya. And the emptiness of that mind is the essence kaya. Now, in Tibetan Buddhism, mostly we follow the middle way consequence school of thought, the Madhyamika Prasangika school of thought. So according to this school of thought, the emptiness, so when we attain true cessations from the path of seeing onward, when we attain true cessation, the emptiness of a true path becomes a true cessation. It's complicated, isn't it? So we attain a true path when we attain the path of seeing with a perceptual realization of emptiness. When we have completed abandoning a certain portion of obscuration, we attain a true cessation. The true cessation is the emptiness of the mind in which those obscurations have been eliminated. So I'll say it again. Now we generate a true path, a perceptual realization of emptiness. We use that perceptual realization of emptiness in order to abandon obscurations. When those obscurations have been abandoned, the emptiness of that mind in which those obscurations have been abandoned is a true cessation. This is the middle way consequence school view. We haven't studied tenets yet, so if it's really difficult, don't worry about it. That's currently not the absolute thing that you have to hold on to. So don't spin your wheels at the moment. If you can hold on to it, that's good. If not, put it at the back of your mind. With those things, we study a new language. We learn how to speak about those things in a language that is more precise. And we need to be more precise because, first of all, we want to be more precise in a way that we understand the working of our own mind. But also, I think that we want to be more precise because this is the language that the Geshes speak. So we learn from their precision. Also, in order to be able to pick up from the details from their explanation, we need to learn a new language. And it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in a week or two. It's more like you hear those terms again and again and again, and certain things are being said again and again and again. So you start parroting that. At least try to make them roll off your tongue. And at some point, you create those pathways in your mind, in your brain. You can connect those terms, but you also start to build up the understanding of those terms. So don't worry if you don't get everything right now. I'll just say it again. The emptiness of a mind that is free from a certain portion of obscuration, according to the middle way consequent school of thought, is a true cessation. So I'm mentioning that because in this chart, we have the exalted knowledge Dhammakaya, which is a Buddha's omniscient mind. So we start now with developing our mind. We, at some point, start to develop more and more realization. And at some point, we'll get to the elimination of our own obscurations from the path of seeing onwards. And we will start accumulating true cessations. So when we will have abandoned all obscurations without exception, all faults will be completely eliminated. We'll have a final abandonment, a final perfect abandonment. And that final perfect abandonment of all obscurations without exception is the essence kaya. This is perfect abandonments, right? So I'm going to also link it up with one of the review questions. Perfect abandonments is the essence kaya. Perfect realization is the exalted knowledge Dhammakaya.
Is that one of the questions?
Yeah, that's one of the questions. All right, so there are a couple of questions here. So Matt is asking, can you cover the relationship between Dhammakaya and Dhammadhatu? Yes, I can. So, all right, so the essence kaya is the emptiness of a Buddha's mind, right? That emptiness of a Buddha's mind can also be called the Dhammadhatu. The Dhammadhatu of a Buddha's mind, the Dhammadhatu of the exalted knowledge Dhammakaya. So Dhammadhatu is a synonym for emptiness. Emptiness has a few synonyms. So it is called, emptiness is called, according to the, let's speak about it from the Mahayana schools of thoughts perspective. Emptiness is selflessness. It is also called the Dhammadhatu, right? Emptiness, selflessness, Dhammadhatu. Dhammadhatu means the sphere of phenomena. It's also called thusness. It is also called suchness. There are many different synonyms. So the Dhammadhatu is synonymous with emptiness, and the essence kaya is emptiness. It is Dhammadhatu, that is the Dhammadhatu of the mind of the Buddha, the exalted knowledge Dhammakaya. All right, that's the relationship. Now, is it worth discussing the Shentung view? Probably not in this context. The Gelug tradition doesn't accept the Shentung view. I think that probably if there is like a real informed discussion between scholars, not like what I say, no, like real scholars, Geshes, and also scholars coming from the Kagyu tradition or the Jonang tradition, then I think that the discussion can be more informed, and I think that probably they can come to see that they have actually a lot of mutual grounds, even if one say, I do not agree with the term Shentong, and others say that I do agree, I do accept Shentong, and it seems that there's like a massive contradiction. I think that upon an informed conversation, they will probably see that in most cases, they agree upon many things. Anyway, so we're not going to speak about the Shentong view. Robert is asking, can all Buddha bodies manifest at the same time? Yeah, so when one attains the state of Buddha, the four bodies of Buddha are attained at the same time. Doesn't mean that they are manifest at the same time. In a sense that I mean, to begin with, what is the meaning of manifest? Appear. Obvious. Yeah, to kind of, you can say that something that is manifest is something that is obvious. There is, in general, there's, when you look at a topic, at collected topics, or in Tibetan Dudra, which gives you the basic building blocks of Buddhist terminology and classifications, phenomenology, and so forth, you start kind of looking at the building blocks of Buddhism and different definitions. So what's the definition of existence? What's the definition of phenomena? What's the definition of permanent, impermanent, and so forth? It gives you kind of the very foundation for delving into philosophy texts. So part of the things that you cover are the definition of the manifest and the hidden. No, so for example, the manifest phenomena that can be realized explicitly without depending upon a correct reason as its basis. I mean, this is kind of, I think, paraphrasing the definition. I'm not sure that I got it completely precise, but I think that it's easy to understand what manifest is when we look at our sense consciousnesses. So my eye consciousness doesn't use reasons in order to realize phenomena. It sees things that are manifest to it, that are obvious to it. It doesn't depend upon reasons. Those are manifest phenomena. So, and things that are hidden, for example, are things that to realize them initially, you would have to depend upon a correct reason. Like, for example, if I say this phone is impermanent because it depends upon causes and conditions, then I use the reason because it depends upon cause and conditions in order to realize that this phone is impermanent. So it being impermanent is slightly hidden to me. I don't see it directly with my eye consciousness. I need to understand it conceptually. So I use a correct reason, and therefore the impermanence of the phone is a hidden phenomenon. So, but going back to the original question, can the Buddha bodies manifest at the same time? So first of all, I said that you attain the 4 bodies of Buddha at the same time. We also say in more kind of in Buddhist language, you manifest them at the same time, which means that they become, in a sense, obvious at the same time. They appear at the same time. Does it mean that they appear to everyone at the same time? What do you think? Do they appear to everyone at the same time? Can everyone, if they become manifest, can everyone see them?
Not everyone will see them. They can appear to everybody, maybe not everybody will see them.
They can appear to everyone, but maybe not everyone can see them. So what about, for example, the mind of the Buddha, the Dhammakaya, the exalted knowledge Dhammakaya? Does it appear to us?
No.
It doesn't appear to us. What do you guys think at home or here? Does the Buddha mind appear to us? Is it manifest to us? Yeah, I would also say that it doesn't appear, it does not manifest to us in that we do not see that. I mean, let alone not seeing a Buddha's mind. No, I don't see your minds. I don't have the ability to see your minds. I haven't got to that stage of realization. Also, I think that the emptiness of a Buddha's mind is not manifest to me. The Sambhogakaya, which is only in a Kanishta, doesn't appear to me. So when I say that, we say that all the Buddha's bodies are manifested at the same time. They're all accomplished at the same time. It doesn't mean that they're obvious and seen by everyone, that they are manifest or evident to everyone. Is that clear?
It's not.
Sort of. All right. So I think, in the previous week, Geshe-la made a statement. I mean, it wasn't like, it's not that he made a statement in pose. He included that in his teaching. And I made a mental note that maybe I should mention it. I think that maybe it's also related to a point that Dechen, Molly also made in last week. I think that it's part of building the terminology that we use in Dharma teachings, particularly when you look at high-level teachings. These teachings and also teachings that you get from Izonis, definitely emptiness teaching and so forth. There are quite a few terms that you need to start using and start to build your understanding. And as I said, it's like learning a new language. It's not that everything is going to be crystal clear right from the beginning, but it's more of once you start using them and building this idea about what it means, at some point you raise doubts and you start to look at those terms from different perspective and go back to what you thought you understood before and see that actually you need to do some tweaking, some more, maybe to eliminate some wrong understandings that you had before and to add some more information to it. What I'm rambling about is also the connection between the exalted knowledge Dhammakaya and the essence Kaya. Now, Geshe-la said in his last week's teaching that they are a single entity. Have you had that term before, being two phenomena being a single entity? Distinct entities, different entities. Have you had those terms before? People at home, have you had those terms before? I know that Chris have, that Jason also had it. So since it is going to come up in teachings likely, you know, probably in the Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life, when we'll definitely discuss emptiness stuff, but also some other teachings, I thought of also just maybe starting to maybe point out roughly what it means. And then later on, we'll add to it. So there is a definition for phenomena being a single entity. There is a definition, but I think that when you start looking at definitions straight away, it's still quite hard. Maybe it's easy sometimes to start look at examples, understand how it works with example, and then later on, if you look at the definition, things can maybe be brought together in a tighter way. So when we say that two things are a single entity, we speak about, in most cases, not in all cases, but in most cases, about how a certain object has attributes and when you point at that object, you can also point at these attributes. I mean, it's just a general way of explaining that. It doesn't mean that in all cases it is the same. So actually, I'll go back and start even before that. So for things to be different, when you take two phenomena and you explain them as different, they can be different in different ways. They can be different by name, they can be different by meaning, and they can be different by both name and meaning. So to give you an example, Dechen and Molly, they're different by name. We refer to the same person, right? The one that is sitting in front of me. So, you know, those at home, you can't see Dechen or Molly, but no, I can just say also with respect to me, Yaki and Katsun. There are two phenomena which are different by name. I mean, the meaning is the same meaning. It's that person. When I point at myself, this is Yaki, this is Katsun, but Yaki and Katsun are different by name. It's quite simple, isn't it? Now, two phenomena can also be distinct according to the meaning. I mean, they could have the same name, but they could be distinct by meaning. Like, for example, I think that many people that ordained by Lama Zopa Rinpoche get the first name, Thupten, right? So we have many Thuptens. We have here one Thupten. We have here another Thupten, right? Thupten Chuing. So we have two Thuptens, same name, but the meaning is different. We have two different objects, two different meaning. Right? So things can be different by name, or things can have the same name, but different in meaning.
I was thinking of the example of when you're cleaning the dishes, you are removing the dirt. So you're removing the grind. What
Yeah.
are you doing? I'm removing the grind on the dishes. What are you doing? I'm cleaning the dishes.
Mm.
So, you're saying two different things, which are potentially two people could say, oh yeah.
Yeah.
That they're the same thing.
Yeah. You can say, I'm wondering if it's the same. You know, if I say, for example, if I travel from, no, sorry, I got stuck. No, sorry. Anyway, yeah, you can say cleaning and removing grime, cleaning the dishes and removing grime. Yeah.
But the two different people with the same name, that's not the single entity one, or is that?
No, I haven't got to the single entity yet. Yeah. So I stepped back from.
One person, different names, and then we went to same name.
Yeah. So I changed my explanation. I went one step back. So before we get to one single entity, I said that I begin with. Before we get to single entity, things can be different. They can be different by name. They can be different by meaning, but they can also be different by name and meaning. Like, for example, body and mind. They have different names, but also different meaning. So things can be different, but a single entity. So, for example, Molly and Dechen are different. They're different by name, but they're a single entity. Yaki and Katsun, different names. They are different by names, but they're a single entity. So when I point at Molly, or when I point at Dechen, I point there. When you guys point at me, at Yaki or Katsun, if someone asks, where is Yaki? Where is Katsun? You point here. So two things that are different, that are distinct, but they're a single entity. Now here, I'm not giving you the absolutely precise definition of that. As I said, first of all, it's good to start looking at examples, and then you start building your understanding of what it means. So then we speak about two things that are different by name, but are not different by meaning. Yaki and Katsun, different names. The meaning is not different. It's that person here. Now, you have also cases of phenomena or phenomenon and the attributes of that phenomenon. Like, for example, Maggie and the emptiness of Maggie. Maggie and the emptiness of Maggie. There are different names. Maggie, the emptiness of Maggie, there are different terms. And also, the meaning of them is different. Maggie is the person there. And the emptiness of Maggie is a permanent phenomenon. It is the emptiness of inherent existence of Maggie. So we have different names and different meaning, but yet those two things are a single entity. They're a single entity because you can say again, this is not the reason that you use in scripture, but one way of explaining that is that when you ask me, where is Maggie? I would point there. Where is the emptiness of Maggie? I will also point there. We have Maggie as a phenomenon, and the attribute of that Maggie, it's also there. It's related to her. Again, it's not the most precise explanation of what it means, but that's a rough explanation. So it's also connected to, we can also link it up with something that we recite in the Heart Sutra. Form is empty, emptiness is form. There is no emptiness other than form. Form is not other than emptiness. There's no emptiness other than form, right? So these last two things that we say, form is not other than emptiness, emptiness is not other than form, indicate that single entity relationship of emptiness and form. So form and its emptiness are a single entity. They're single entity with each other. So why am I talking about it? You might wonder. Well, I wanted to go to this, the essence kaya, and the exalted knowledge Dhammakaya. The essence kaya is the emptiness of the exalted knowledge Dhammakaya. So there are different names, there are also different meanings. This is the mind of Buddha. The exalted knowledge Dhammakaya is the mind of Buddha. The essence kaya is the emptiness of the mind of Buddha. So there are different names, there are different meanings, but they're a single entity. Wherever you have the mind of Buddha, you'll also have the essence kaya, the emptiness of mind of Buddha. They're a single entity. So I'm saying that because Geshe-la mentioned it last week in the teachings.
In some ways, you know, like you were saying earlier on, you know, studying this Tibetan Buddhism is learning a whole new language and learning a new way of thinking about things.
Yeah.
And this sort of is like your classic example that I have seen so often in Tibetan Buddhism. They keep on breaking it down. You know, so we've got the Dhammakaya, or you know, we've got the Dhammakaya, and then we have the essence and the exalted wisdom Dhammakaya. And then we even break that down again, and we've got the
adventitious purity and natural purity.
And you know, like, let's just really make it complicated. It's barely, it is a real feature of Tibetan Buddhism. Is that they just keep on breaking things down. And I guess that's because of the debate, the way they, you know, they keep on, you know, like they don't stop until there really is nowhere else to go.
Well, I think that.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the thing is that there's such a kind of the Tibetan Buddhism takes a really precise approach to analysis and investigation. You know, everything is broken down, everything is analyzed, dissected, broken up. And I think that when you get used to that, you get to see that we all assume that, well, first of all, we start with acknowledging that all of us want to be happy and no sentient being wants to suffer. The Buddha presented a path for the elimination of suffering and the cultivation of long-lasting happiness. Not only that, he showed a path for the attainment of the state of Buddhahood. So if we take a light-hearted approach to that and not get all the facts right, or at least not all the facts right, many of them in a subtle, with a subtle understanding, I think that we will either be not very effective in our practice, in a sense that we will not know what we should pay attention to, what should be emphasized according to our level of progression. That's one thing. Another thing is that if we're not precise enough, it might be that we will actually go wrong about our process of thinking. And also that we might think that it's actually quite easy to become Buddha. You know, that we think that it's actually the only thing that you need to do is to be kind-hearted, or the only thing that you need to do is to cultivate concentration. So in that sense, the process of everything is broken up to an absolute minute detail shows you that actually it's not that simple at all. There are quite a few things that you need to do. It's just like Lama Tsongkhapa started off his Songs of Experience with paying homage to the Buddha. And the first line in Songs of Experience, their Bridge Labyrinth, says that your body is made of millions or billions of causes of virtue, perfect causes. You know, so everything is broken down into a minute detail in order to show actually that it's not like a light-hearted thing. You do need to break everything apart to minute details in order to, at the end, become Buddha. So Graham asks, do you agree that Buddha is made of non-Buddha elements? What does it mean? What do you mean?
The Buddha, it's part of what you were just saying, wasn't it? Where you were saying that the Buddha is made up of all these other things, but Buddha is not, I mean, the bits that make up the Buddha, or make up any of us, in fact, are made up of all sorts of things. So they go together to produce the Buddha, just like our elements go together to produce us. Each of them being empty of an inherent existence, but together they come together to make a Buddha. It's like our bits and our things, our mind, you know, all those 5 skandhas for every one of us is also made up to make each and every one of us as our individual empty selves.
So,
yeah,
so Graham, so first of all, every part of the Buddha is Buddha. So, so I think that in order to understand what it means that every part of a Buddha is Buddha, I mean, the mind of Buddha is Buddha, the body of Buddha is Buddha, the speech of Buddha is Buddha. You can look at the meaning of the word Buddha in Tibetan. I think that we spoke about it last week. You know, the word for Buddha is Sangya. Sangya is to remove all faults, and Gya is to expand in all positive qualities, realizations, and so forth. So everything about a Buddha, every part of Buddha is Buddha, in that everything is free from faults and has developed perfect quality. So I think that normally when we think of Buddha, we only think about a Buddha person, like, you know, someone like the historical Buddha, for example, or someone that might resemble some of the statues or tankas that we see. But Buddha is much more than that. You know, the mind of Buddha is Buddha from the perspective of the elimination of all faults and the development of all perfect qualities. And the essence kaya, the emptiness of a mind of Buddha, is Buddha, because it is the elimination of all faults. And you can say that it is also the development of all qualities, in a sense that it is the emptiness. I would say that it is the emptiness of the mind in which all qualities have been fully developed. So all parts of Buddha is Buddha. But if you ask about the causes and conditions that gave rise to Buddha before becoming Buddha, well, the causes and conditions for Buddha, the paths that the Buddha cultivated along the way, the conditions that the Buddha used, you know, to do that, they were not Buddha, in that they were not free from all faults and were the summation of all positive qualities.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I mean, in the history of all the thousands, millions of lives that went to produce the Buddha, and all the things that he did in previous lives, where he was, you know, he was going on the path to become Buddha. That's what I'm getting at there. That once he's become the Buddha, then, you know, every part of him is a Buddha. But he still had to come. It's like the lotus and the mud. You know, no mud, no lotus. And so even the Buddha came from the mud. So otherwise, there's no possibility of us ever becoming a Buddha, because you'd have to be perfect to start with, which would be impossible, and it'd be pointless, wouldn't it? So that's all I'm getting at there. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Good. So we clarify that. So another thing that I wanted to do is to, in relation to what we've covered today, freedoms and opportunities, I wanted to look at, first of all, I've mentioned the 4 points in the meditation outline, right? Freedoms and opportunities, recognizing what they are, recognizing how they are of great advantage, seeing how difficult it is to attain a precious human body, and how difficult it is to lose it, how easy it is to lose it. Jan, I'll get to your comment or question in a second. First of all, I want to just continue with those 4 points. So first of all, we said that we have spoke about in Geshe-la's class about the 8 freedoms and 10 endowments or opportunities. Was it clear? I'm wondering if you have any questions with respect to what they are, or the 8 freedoms, the 10 endowments. One point that that Geshe-la made, and I wanted to bring it up in class to make you think about it, was that to be able to take vows, we as human beings can take vows, whereas in other states of existence, like in the God realms, you cannot take vows. Can you think of a reason why that would be the case?
Because, well, in the teaching, didn't Geshe say, wasn't it, that we can take vows here because we can practice ethical discipline, whereas in the God realms, they are just indulging in. Where's my notes? Read my writing.
Happens to me a lot.
Well, they're indulging in all their. Are they indulging?
In pleasure. Yeah.
So, and they're not practicing, they don't have the opportunity to practice the ethical discipline that we can do as a human. Practicing the 3 physical aspects of the path, well, mind training, the cheetah, and knowing form we can do this like that. So, yeah.
All right. So,
My notes up for
okay.
that.
So also we have a few answers that came here on the chat. So some say because they don't have a teacher, because only humans can become enlightened, because they don't have the basis of a human body, because their minds aren't turned towards the Dharma. Only human can have a teacher that gives vows. Gods don't have the elements from both father and mother like humans from southern continent have. Animals can listen but have no understanding, can't meditate. So I think that many of these points, if not all of them, are correct. If I were to approach that issue, I don't know if there is only one correct answer to that, but at least with vows of ordination vows to begin with, the basis for the ordination vow is the determination to live cyclic existence, what we call renunciation. So the ordination vow is regarded as a Hinayana vow, in a sense that it's given according to the Hinayana procedure. And in order to become ordained, you have to have the determination to live cyclic existence. So at least you need to think about it. So if you are in the God realms, there are different types of gods. First of all, there are gods of the desire realm. And when you look at Lama Tsongkhapa's description in the Lamrim Chenmo, kind of sometimes speaks about all the great enjoyments that they have. So they have lots of enjoyments and resources and so forth. And because they don't have manifest suffering, they don't have that scenario in which they develop the determination to live that state. I mean, it is said that we as human beings, we enjoy both. We enjoy a bit of happiness or pleasure, but we also enjoy a lot of suffering. We have a lot of suffering, and we also have the intellectual capacity to recognize that and then to seek to break free from our state of suffering. So if you only involve in that state in which kind of you'll be constantly intoxicated or kind of binge on pleasures and so forth, and there's nothing that can cause you suffering, you'll have no motivation to emerge from that. So I think that that's one way that you can approach why gods cannot take vows, because they cannot develop renunciation in that stage. But there are also gods that belong to the higher realms, to the form realms and the formless realms. And it is said that those that remain in a certain concentrated state where they haven't got discrimination. So what exactly that state is, it's hard to describe, but it is said that when they are born in that state, they have the discrimination that I was born and they remain for the duration of the life without discrimination. And then when they die, there's that thought, I'm dying. But for all the durations of their life, they have no discrimination, no thoughts. So also in that state, it is said that it is not possible to develop renunciation. So they wouldn't have the motivation for taking a vow to begin with.
So what you're saying is that in the God realm, you have a self-entitlement attitude, like this is the way my life is, and this is what I do. While in our realm, we have that attitude now. We can also self-determine. We can say, this isn't good enough. I'm going to now motivate to do this, or to lead a better life. I've led a very poor life, poor upbringing. You can change your conditions and self-determine to lead a better life. Or in the Buddhist sense, he lived a very good life and decided that wasn't good enough either, because it was really only just for him, and he couldn't help other people who were suffering so much. So he then made the determination, the self-determination to give up that wonderful life he had to better others. So it's self-determination.
Yeah. I think that
What did he say?
no, well, there's like Jampa is continuing on his tangents. Thank you, Jampa. And Graham is responding to that. So I think that one thing that you can think, one argument that you can think of is that not having a basis for the development of renunciation. That is at least for the Pratimoksha vow. Also, I think that within the Pratimoksha vow, at least when you take ordination, you have not only to be in a human body, but also a human body that has certain attributes, like your organs need not be defective. If you're unique or what have you, then you cannot take ordination. And also the particular prerequisites for taking a vow, so that in some sense mandates that you have a human body. What about the tantric vow or the Bodhisattva vow? I assume that if the Pratimoksha vows are the basis for it's not that you have to take the Pratimoksha vow in order to take the Bodhisattva vow or the tantric vow, but still I think that since you need in both of the sets of the vows, the Bodhisattva vow and the tantric vow, you need a common path, that is the determination to live cyclic existence. Maybe you can say that that's also why you can take them as human. I'm not sure that you cannot take the tantric vow or Bodhisattva vow in other states of existence, but maybe it's a question that we can ask Geshe-la. All right, so recognizing how difficult it is to attain a human rebirth. There was one point that I also thought of speaking about here. There is a distinction that we make between just a human rebirth and a precious human rebirth. These two are different. So looking at, for example, at Asef, and maybe I can say many of our friends and relatives and so forth, we're human beings, but not all of us have a complete set of freedoms and opportunities. Like, for example, when you think of the 8 states of freedom, one of them is freedom from wrong views. So when I think of, for example, some of my family members in Israel, they don't have freedom. Many of them don't have freedom from wrong views. They have wrong views. So they were born as human beings, but it's not a life of freedoms and opportunities. It's not a body with freedoms and opportunities. And being born with a certain disability, for example, that makes it impossible for you to listen to teachings or to study, reflect, and meditate, means that you're born as a human being, but not with freedoms and opportunities. So there's a difference between these two. I mean, it's quite interesting. I think that when you look at the time of the Buddha, and also I think by and large Tibetan society, either in Tibet or in India, I think that caring for the disabled was not, I think, as advanced as now in, I guess, in our society. I was in India, when I was studying in India, there was a home for children with disabilities, and children that were blind, that were deaf, or that were with Down syndrome or other intellectual disability, all of them were grouped together and just sent to like a home. So in that sense, you can say that someone that is blind, someone that is deaf, now in our society can still study the Dharma and practice the Dharma, but still, I think that when you contextualize it in the big scheme of things, in many parts of the world, if you have a certain disability and there is no system around you to support your development, then your ability to expand your mind in terms of the Dharma would be pretty, you'd be incapacitated to a great degree. So it is said that just to attain a human rebirth, you need to have guarded at least one part of ethics, like a single ethics. And normally the way that they explain it, they say that you have the ethical discipline that abstains from the 10 non-virtues, so you need to have abstained from one of them. But then in order to have freedoms and opportunities and to see how difficult it is, they say that you need to have guarded pure ethical discipline. So are we doing it? No, to guard pure ethical discipline doesn't mean necessarily that you don't commit any negative action whatsoever. Because otherwise it would have been totally impossible for us to have pure ethical discipline. I mean, none of us would have been born with freedoms and opportunities. So to have pure ethical discipline means that, first of all, you're trying to guide your ethics, but you could, on top of that, you can set up when you perform a negativity. As soon as you perform a negativity, you lay it down with confession and purification. And you build up on that. You are developing your ability, your aptitude to abstain from more and more negative actions. So, not undermining ethical discipline, taking it seriously, meaning to guard it better, and purifying. As soon as you find out that you have performed negativity, all of it comes up at the end to having guarded pure ethical discipline. That is at least how Geshe Jamin used to explain it before. So that is the very basis. Sorry?
Is that the precious one to have guarded, have pure?
Ethical discipline. That's the very basis. But on top of that, you need to have practiced, it is said, the 6 perfections, such as generosity. However, doesn't mean necessarily that if you were, like for example, if you were a Hinayana practitioner, a really high-level Hinayana practitioner that didn't have bodhicitta, but were absolutely generous, you're still qualified to have practiced the six perfections, such as generosity. What do you guys think?
Maybe practice generosity, but not the perfection of generosity.
Yeah, if you're a Hinayana practitioner, you're guarding pure ethical discipline, you're absolutely generous. Can you say that you still fulfill this, having practiced or supplementing it with this practice of the 6 perfections, such as generosity? So Jason says yes. Some people here say yes. Maggie, did you say yes?
No.
Maggie says no. No. So Robert says yes. So I would go with a yes. So, and this is also something that came up in previous rounds of our study program. So it just kind of speaking about it as the 6 perfections, just such as generosity, is just a general way of speaking about it. But if you're also a Hinayana practitioner that guards pure ethical discipline, and you're generous, you have ethics, you have patience, and so of course a Hinayana practitioner would put that into practice. I mean, they practice the 4 immeasurables. May all sentient beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. They develop it in an immeasurable way. So of course they will be generous. Of course they will have patience. Of course they will have joyous effort and so forth. Maybe not the perfections. I mean, not maybe. They will not have the perfections, but they will have those practices. So that's with respect to supplementing it with the 6 perfections, such as generosity. It's just a general way of expressing that. Sorry?
I thought you said just generosity
No.
with the
Yeah, such as generosity. And then at the end, it says, connecting it up with stainless aspirational prayers. Now, it seems like kind of I'm adding a few more minutes. I'm a bit late, but I'm just going to say that. So to supplement it with making stainless aspirational prayers means that one way of explaining that is that at the end of your life, you die with a virtuous state of mind. So often we say that at the end of your life, when you approach, when you're on the verge of death, you want to give rise to a virtuous state of mind manifestly, so that will activate a good karma that you have planted before in your mind stream, so that it will lead you to a good rebirth in your next lifetime. So making prayers in that sense, giving rise to virtuous state of mind, is stated to supplement, to at the end, linking it up with making stainless aspirational prayers by generating that virtuous state of mind. So it means that you've gathered ethics before. You've also practiced some other things, generosity, patience, joyous effort, and so forth. That gives you good attributes in your next lifetime. And at the end, in order to make that karma potent, then you supplement it with a practice with making stainless aspirational prayers or giving rise to a virtuous state of mind. That will lead you to another state of good rebirth in your next lifetime, hopefully as a human being with freedoms and opportunities. So those are the causes. Jampa is saying to practice the perfection of generosity is not their practice of perfection of generosity, because the perfection of generosity is the practice of generosity that has gone beyond emptiness of the 3 spheres, etc. What's up with you today, Jampa?
He's a stirrer.
All right, I think that the point that Jampa is making here is to practice the perfection of generosity is not the perfection of generosity. It's not generosity that has gone beyond. That's the point I think that Jampa is making here.
It's just another point in terms of saying that you can look at it from the point of view of the what is a perfection, and really a perfection is not a perfection until it is qualified by realization of emptiness. And because the word perfection means to go beyond, really, doesn't it? So it's kind of an odd word in English. But I completely take your point that, of course, you don't have to have the practice of generosity qualified by realization of emptiness in order to have a cause for a particular type of perfect human rebirth.
Yeah.
Just that there is that added element of, this idea of a stainless practice of generosity is not a stainless practice of generosity or perfection of generosity until it is qualified by a understanding of the thoroughly interdependent and therefore empty nature of all of that.
And at that stage, it becomes a transcendent.
Well, that's what perfection means.
Yeah.
Generosity which is transcended.
All right.
Yeah, the word perfection in English means transcendent or gone beyond. Different ways of translating the.
Yeah, so you can practice generosity without practicing the perfection of generosity is not a practice as such, is it? It's where you have gone beyond the practice of generosity, I would imagine.
I think that kind of the point that I was trying to make is we say you need to have supplemented it with the practice of the perfection of wisdom, such as with the practice of the perfection, such as generosity. But I take your point with respect to a realization of emptiness, but I think that on top of that, it sounds as if only Mahayanis can create the causes for a precious human body, whereas I think that also from a Hinayana perspective, you can create causes for a precious human body. You know, when you practice generosity, you don't necessarily practice the perfection of, you know, your practice is not qualified by bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment. However, it does not mean to say that you're not creating those causes for a precious human body with freedoms and opportunities.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. So it seems like we're kind of a bit, I'm 10 minutes late. I apologize, but no, it's not a bad thing. We're still discussing the Dhamma. So if you want to, you know, if you hate me for going a bit over time, then I apologize. So maybe we'll finish this session with saying the prayers, put it on the board, if I find it. Where is it? There it is. Yeah, we just do Chanchu Samcho Rinpoche, Make Pana, Kyuchi, Kevanyam Pame Paya, Kone Gondu Pewa Shu. Thank you very much, people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carson.
Thank you.
Very much,
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for coming.
Hey, Dad, bring your parrots next time. You want to see them? I want to see them.
Hey, Jason.
Hey, Molly.
Namaste, Jampa. Namaste, Jason. Right.
Tatum.
All right, it's time to finish this session.